This is really the last thing that I want to talk about really before training camp because it was the last thing on my mind because I don't worry about it that much. But I know there are fans out there that do worry about Jalen Hurts and can he, ascend himself forward behind a coaching staff that can push him. Is this really the year for Jalen Hurts? And we're going to be talking about a couple other things. Jason Kelce, some news on him and maybe coaching the Philadelphia Eagles. And interesting news about the undrafted free agent DT from Baylor, Gabe Hall, that the Eagles could lose him because of this specific reason. And we're going to go over all that. So let's get straight into it.
A killer buried, but not dead.
Darren, we better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. So I want to go over some news for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we haven't talked about Jalen Hurts in a long time, especially on this channel, because really he's been really the less important thing to me, not in a bad way, but because I don't really have an issue with Jalen Hurts going into the 2024 season. He's really the last thing I would really want to talk about before going into training camp, because obviously last year was a dumpster fire of the biggest downfall probably in Eagles history. That's in the record books, that's in the history books as of right now, from 10-1 to losing 7 and losing that playoff game was just absolutely horrible. But if we go through Jalen Hurts' career and kind of what's happened to him, and to be honest, there's been a lot more upside than downside to him really in 2020. I don't really count that as his rookie year because he was kind of thrown into the fire that year under really bad circumstances when Carson Wentz was not playing well and still playing injured at the time. And I thought progressively there were some good things to take from Jalen Hurts that season, but he was a rookie that year. So I thought he got worse. Good things to take from some games, but I thought he got worse through the games that he was playing. Going to 21, new coaching staff, new head coach. You get into the playoffs with 9 wins. Sirianni didn't run the ball enough. He was the play caller. Shane Steichen took over play calling, and onwards the Eagles went, where it showed a little bit of promise going into 2022. 22, they treated Jalen Hurts like he was pretty much the franchise quarterback. Didn't pay him yet, and they decided to put weapons around him. Obviously, A.J. Brown and adding more to the defense and doing things like that. And they had we've had some issues with certain play calls that year in 22, but they were unstoppable. Got to the Super Bowl, didn't win, and then really going to 23, where you changed your coaching staff yet again with Brian Johnson as apparently the OC, and obviously keeping, as what Sirianni would say, keeping Gannon's defense in Philadelphia, which really it was Vic Fangio's defense. Obviously with Sean Desai and then Matt Patricia taking over later on, the downfall. The rest of the story. This year, how much pressure are we putting on Jalen Hurts? I mean, the last thing I want to hear from people, and trust me, and I am open to everybody's opinion, and I'm fine with that, but the one thing that Jalen Hurts has an issue with, and I'm not going to say he's perfect because he's not, okay? I think his arm has gotten better. I think when it comes down to the turnover ratio, I think turning over the football has been one of the biggest problems with Jalen Hurts. Now, yes, a non-competent coaching staff behind him. And I totally say it because really after the season ended last year in 23, I had people in the comment section, people in the live chat of some of the live streams I had, were literally sneaking through the coaching staff and not even blaming the coaching staff for 1 second. Blaming everything on Jalen Hurts. Yes, he's throwing the football out there, but if you're not using middle of the field, you're using faulty, horrible substitutions, 10 plays for your playbook, and not even realizing until the middle of the season that Nick Sirianni game planned everything when Brian Johnson, all he was doing was piggybacking his playbook on game day. That's pretty much all that was happening every single week. The Eagles didn't get better every single week last year. They stayed the same. They didn't adjust to what defenses adjusted to our offense. We just never adjusted back, and that's been one of the biggest problems. The Eagles didn't have one big momentum game that we had. We never had a annihilation in one game. We never killed a team 35 plus, 40 plus. We never, our personnel wise, what really brought us far last year in 23 was really personnel. Okay, but it only gets you so far, and that's one of the biggest issues. And Jalen Hurts had to deal with what he had to deal with. All the rumors about Jalen Hurts after the season or during the season, that there was a big disconnect with Brian Johnson. And when Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni as head coach, the quarterback, they have meetings every single week alone, every single week. And from what was said about Jalen Hurts wanting to do more intermediate passes, use the middle of the field a little bit more, which we were pretty much waiting for because cover zero blitz was killing us all year last year. And it seemed like Nick Sirianni just swept everything under the rug. Nick Sirianni couldn't give the play calling away to anybody else or game planning to anybody else, because our coaching staff was way too young. There was no experience to take over, and Brian Johnson was just the scapegoat of it all. Okay. So I can blame the player for playing the way he did, but if the coach is not going to change anything to help his quarterback, Jalen Hurts is going to look like he doesn't want to, not saying he doesn't want to be here, but he's going to look like he's, during a game where he rolls his eyes or he just looks like he's so out of it. Like, it's just to a point where he just had to deal with it. He has to, oh yeah, second and short, I want you to throw a 70-yard pass in that Seahawks game as an underthrown ball just to get a flag. Not to make the play, but I want you to throw that underthrown ball to see if we can get a flag. Not trying to schematically make or create a play to get your receiver open. Hence why, huge upgrade and all the controls with Kellen Moore this year. Okay? It was a long time I wanted to listen to Nick Sirianni's press conferences. It was a long time I wanted to hear from any of these coaches, because I didn't want to hear what they had to say even after the season was over. I didn't want to even hear anything during this offseason process from free agency, now getting close to Eagles training camp. Okay, now I am reset and I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to see what this team is going to bring this year. Now you extended Devontae Smith to, counting this year, 5 years on a big extension. A.J. Brown, big extension. Okay, you drafted a couple good players on defense. I mean, you had a killer draft. Now it's time to put the pieces together. The biggest problem right now is the coaching staff. Okay, Vic Fangio is the master artist of this defense, and who do you want to master this defense and have all the control in it when it comes to personnel and it comes to where he's putting players to be successful in the right spots? It's going to be Vic Fangio. So they make, yet again, 2 new coordinators, and now understanding throughout this whole offseason progress, or this whole entire offseason, to now we're going to be starting training camp soon. We now know that both of these coordinators have full control of what they're doing. Okay, how much Nick has it that's involved? Be the motivational speaker, be the hands-off coach when you know really when to know to keep your hands off everything. Okay, because when the ego is up here, Nick doesn't look good. Nick is, and there's nothing wrong with being a hands-off coach. At least be honest. If you're not good at something, just don't be involved in it. Be involved in what the Eagles are doing offensively, game planning, and maybe helping out a little bit. But when it comes to game day and what they're going to be calling and what the playbook looks like, just stay away and just keep the attitudes of your players upright, upbeat, and keep these guys motivated when you're winning. That's really all that matters. And obviously, when you lose, and if the Eagles do lose this year, because you do lose a game or two or a few games, keep them uplifted. That's what Nick should be doing this year. But Jalen Hurts and probably the rest of the team had no sense of urgency last year. When you're dealing with the same thing from the coaching staff every single week, I don't get how these guys stay motivated. Yeah, during practice, they'll we had a really good practice, and they feel energized going through another week and getting this thing fixed. And then as soon as the offense scores on our defense, or the offense can't even get a drive going and can't run the ball and can't do anything normal, they just lose that adversity is out the window. Like they just lose it. They can't deal with adversity. They can't deal with things going bad. And once that happened, they just fell apart at the knees. I mean, they fell apart so fast during the latter part of the season last year. So it comes to Jalen Hurts. Yeah, it's obviously turning over the football is the biggest problem. But if you're not throwing middle of the field, there's no diverse different plays. There's nothing you're not bringing anything fresh to the table. You're not taking pressure off Jalen Hurts. On top of everything else, Jalen Hurts was dealing with a knee injury last year, which was the Eagles' fault for all these QB draws they were doing early in the season. Jalen Hurts taking so many hits. The big cop-out play for me is a QB draw. It's the big cop-out play. I don't know what to call, so let's just run. Let's just snap the ball to Hurts and just let him run. And then he did that so much, he ended up getting hurt. We lose that third part of, that third aspect of your offense, which is Jalen Hurts' speed. Still had a little bit of it, but it just wasn't enough. And I felt like every time when Jalen Hurts had the ball in his hand last year, that the coaches, I think, as later as the year went on last year, they were telling him to, slide down, don't get tackled, don't get hit. And I feel like sometimes when Jalen Hurts had the ball in his hands, he didn't know what he was doing. He'd get the ball in his hands, he wouldn't really use all that speed, where I know he would actually run a lot faster. And he was contemplating on, should I slide or should I just keep going for that first down marker? So I think they were putting so much into Jalen Hurts' head, on top of this subpar play calling with these bubble screens, QB draws. And then when DeAndre Swift gets, your running back's supposed to take pressure off your quarterback. And then what you do is on a second and short, third and short, you sub DeAndre Swift out. And because you make your substitutions, okay, you make those substitutions, you mirror that every single game. Teams know what you're doing when you substitute DeAndre Swift for Kenneth Gainwell. They know what you're doing because you've done it. You don't make adjustments. You don't try to trick the defense. Like they've made it obvious what they're doing when they sub out a player and put in a specific player that they do specific plays with. And I think that was another huge problem on top of coaching. Okay, so there's been a lot of issues. The creativity in these route combinations, no hot route, no crossers, nothing. I mean, nothing. I mean, the roster can only take you so far with the talent that you have. This year, it's no joke. And it's like, do I put pressure on Jalen Hurts? Of course, he's always going to have pressure, but this is the year where things have to turn around. And hopefully with this coordinator group now, that we start to look like a normal football team that knows how to get guys open, knows how to use specific weapons. I think this is the best on paper right now, because I'm not going to go too ahead of myself. On paper, I think this is the best roster that Kellen Moore has ever dealt with offensively as a coordinator. And I don't question Jalen Hurts' leadership. Like all these stupid reports every offseason, Jalen Hurts has to be a better leader. He needs to work on being a better leader, and all this fake crap from these nobody reporters that no one's even heard of. Okay? We know the people on Philly media that won't shut their mouths every single day. And trust me, I've already dealt with it one time and I'm finished with it, because people are just stubborn at this point, okay? But I know what I'm getting out of Jalen Hurts. I know in my quarterback what's going to happen. And you know what? Since OTAs and minicamp, really, I've seen more excitement. Lane Johnson even tells the media, hey, like, we actually have a coordinator that knows what he's doing. Devontae Smith, after his the celebrity baseball game, whatever it was, he talked about, Nick sitting back a little bit, sitting on the outside of the circle a little bit. Don't put your hands in the cookie jar if you don't know what you're doing. Okay? When coaches need to learn how to sit back, you sit back and let the coordinators be coordinators. And at least going into 2024, I know who to blame if offensive play calling sucks. I know who to blame if defensive play calling sucks. Okay? I don't question what Jalen Hurts does, bringing guys together. And, I don't question any of it. I don't, because he will never change. He's a lot different than a lot of quarterbacks out there from what he went through in college. Most quarterbacks would have folded. They would have probably never even got drafted. They wouldn't even have lasted more than a year in the NFL as a starting quarterback or anything like that from what Hurts has been through and all the negativity that he has gotten because of his read option run skill set, never being able to be a passer. And yeah, I didn't believe in 2020 that he had an arm at all. And then, man, I was surprised. You know? And this is where we're at right now. I take a lot of responsibility to say that the coach, I put a lot on this coaching staff that screwed up a lot of players last year and this quarterback the most. So this year, I'm going to be very critical of this team. Everything that they do. I'll give it a couple games because I know there's new pieces. I know that this is a new offense, so I get it. But because last year in 23 they didn't incorporate. I mean, look, Shane Steichen left. He went to the Colts as a head coach, and you took nothing from that playbook to put into that to really. You took nothing from Steichen to really grasp a new playbook for 23 last year. I mean, Brian Johnson was at Steichen's side last year, and he was just a standing coach reading a playbook. That's all he was. That's it. Why didn't Brian Johnson get a coordinator job? I think a lot of people around the league know about the Eagles and how they dealt with things and who was really in charge last year. If Brian Johnson was that good with play calling last year. Close game after close, ugly win last year. So when it comes to Jalen Hurts, pressure 100%. I won't, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, I'm going to take him off the hook for little things. I'm not. And people are either going to love me for it or they're going to hate me for it, and I don't care. Because I'm not repeating last year again. Howie Roseman doesn't want to repeat last year. I think a lot of people in that building are sick to their stomachs what happened last year. And we've seen the best of Jalen Hurts. I don't even think we haven't even seen the ceiling of Jalen Hurts. We've seen a ceiling, but it's not, it was far, but not far enough. He can go way beyond what he's capable of when he's on point. I think it's only going to get better. And I think a play caller and Kellen Moore is going to push him. And obviously Doug, the quarterback coach, is going to be a huge help too. I'm putting Jalen Hurts in the right direction. Trust me, the all-time great QBs, okay, even talking about Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady have had bad seasons in the past. It has happened, okay? How many times do coordinators change? Quarterback coaches. It's happened a million times to a lot of great players at quarterback. But you really have to have somebody with an offensive mind. Not this fake ego, I'm the head coach with the game plan and just giving the playbook to somebody to call whatever plays they think is going to be right on game day, which has 10 plays in it. So that's where I'm at. I'm excited for Jalen Hurts. He's the last player I'm even worried about going into this season because I know the work ethic's there. I know his play will match it, and we'll be on the right. Direction. So that's the news on Jalen Hurts. So sorry for that long rant. I think that had to be said, from my own mouth. So that's where we're at right now. Now, secondly, we're going to be going over Gabe Hall. So it looks like Eagles undrafted free agent, defensive tackle Gabe Hall from Baylor, was drafted in the first round of the UFL draft by the San Antonio Brahmas. Okay, so this is interesting. Now, people are like, dude, he's an undrafted free agent. He's with the Eagles right now. How is he drafted by the UFL? Now, it looks like they can draft players. Now, if Gabe Hall doesn't even make the team, if he doesn't make the roster, if he doesn't make the final 53, okay, Gabe Hall will leave. Gabe Hall will probably not be on the practice squad, okay? I don't know what to take from Gabe Hall because really I think there's some upside to him. I think theoretically could be the backup nose tackle for Jordan Davis, to be honest with you, because we really need a backup at that spot. You can line him up as an outside technique. He's got really good power coming off the line, and I can't wait to see more during training camp. But I think as the backup nose, he would make more sense, and hopefully he does make the team, and the Eagles don't. So the Eagles will know they are going to lose him if he doesn't make it. So we'll see what happens with Gabe Hall going forward, and we'll see the news on that. Now, lastly, we have news on Jason Kelce. So it says, breaking, Jason Kelce has a locker in the Eagles coach's room and spends more time at the facility than most current players, according to Lane Johnson. Jason Kelce, the coach. Now, this was obviously Kate Adams was interviewing Lane Johnson, and Lane Johnson said that he's been in the building more than anybody. He's been working out, and no, he's not coming out of retirement, so everybody relax. He's been working out. He's been doing this thing, and he has a coach. He has a locker room in the coach's room, which is interesting. Lane Johnson says that they expect Jason Kelce. They expect him to be at Eagles training camp a lot, couple times a week. We know that Jason Kelce during the season I think he is a sideline or a side analyst for Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football. I forgot which one it was. So I know he's doing that as of right now. And, we'll see what happens in the near future of Kelce's coaching career, maybe coming to the Eagles, maybe helping Jeff Stoutland as the assistant offensive line coach. I don't know. I think he would be perfect. That would be a dream come true. I think it will happen. He's enjoying his new, I don't know. He's making money. He's doing other things. He's branching out to other things in retirement. So I get all of that. But he will be around for Eagles training camp. Not saying every day. Lane said a couple, twice a week or something like that. But he's been putting a lot of time into the building and probably helping as much as he possibly can on things. So we'll see, we'll see where he's at during training camp and what his future will come to, going forward. And can't wait to see him as a sideline or a side analyst. I don't know if he's going to be on the set or he's going to be on the sideline. I'm not really sure where they're putting him on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, whatever it is. But it should be interesting. And that's pretty much about it. If you guys haven't checked out the Philly Shakedown podcast merch as well, definitely check that out. We have sizes from extra small to 6XL. We have women's and men's sleeveless t-shirts right now. And if you guys didn't see my Twitter post or X post on a teaser for some new merch coming out on July 30th, we're going to show you a sample size July 30th. Or at least not a sample size. July 30th, that is the big release date for new merch coming up, and multiple things are coming out that day. We are going to start to, show a teaser of some of the merch next, probably on the 21st of July. So definitely check all of it out. Link in the description for all of the merch that is out right now, and we've been working really hard on it, and hopefully you guys are going to love it. This is probably our favorite line released so far. So put a lot of heart and work into it. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about Jalen Hurts, the situation going into this year, the pressure. What is the one thing that you want Jalen Hurts to kind of fix with himself this year? Or do you blame more of the coaching staff than Hurts? Because I trust me, I see both sides to the conversation in a lot of ways. We talked about Gabe Hall, what you know of that situation as well, and obviously Jason Kelce as a future coach, and Jason Kelce being heavily involved in Eagles training camp, which is great. So that's an awesome thing. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Just remember, we're going to be streaming this weekend for the first time in a long time. So we haven't streamed. I don't know when's the last time we streamed, probably besides the shakedowns. The shakedowns are coming this week at the end of this weekend, probably Sunday, Monday, and I will be streaming this weekend to talk Eagles training camp. You guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys on the next one. Shakes it up, false life. Peace out, guys.